Secrets on the bus. Judy came home for Easter. Things were still odd between us. We'd only exchanged a few postcards since Christmas. I did an extra thorough job cleaning up my room the night before she arrived, just in case if she wanted to be roommates again. But Daddy put her bag down in David's room, and she didn't tell him to move it. So I was kind of surprised when she suggested we take the bus across town to see David at college one evening. Mother and Daddy agreed and gave Judy some money for dinner, and before I knew it, we were on our way. The bus wasn't crowded. We sat next to each other, not touching. In the old days, Judy would put her arm around me, and I'd lean my head on her shoulder. I kept expecting her to start talking, to give me advice like she always did, but she didn't. I wanted to tell her something, anything, so we'd have another secret to share. "Judy," I said. It was raining outside, and the bus was warm. "You know that friend I had, Liz? The one who was colored?" asked Judy. "Yeah. What about her?" I glanced around the bus to make sure there was no one I knew. There wasn't. "I'm still friends with her." "What?" Judy sat up. "Sometimes we talk on the phone, and on Tuesdays we meet in the Rock Crusher." "Marley!" "Don't tell Mother and Daddy." "Of course not, but what?" You're the one who was always telling me to find someone I had stuff in common with, someone I liked." "Well, I did. It's not my fault she's not exactly who I expected." Judy gave me a long look. Before she could say anything else, the bus reached our stop and we stumbled out into the rain. David was waiting for us. "Hey, Sis 1 and Sis 2, he said. "Long time no see." I ran over and gave him a hug. We went to a cafeteria near his dorm. I ordered fried chicken and chocolate pudding and pecan pie, and no one said a word about me not selecting a single vegetable. It didn't take long before David was talking all about the high schools being closed. Most of the displaced white students have found somewhere to go to school, like 90% or so. "Not Red," I said. "That's his choice," said David. "His parents could totally afford to send him to private school, but 50% of the colored students haven't been to school at all." "Where'd you learn all this?" asked Judy. "Meetings." "What kind of meetings?" "There are a couple of colored students here now. I talked to one and—" "I work for the WEC," I said. "That's the Women's Emergency Committee to open our schools." "I know," said David. "Daddy told me. That's how I got the idea. One of my friends knows a professor at Philander Smith. That's a Negro college in town. We all got together for a meeting at the house of one of the professors. He served us wine and everything. Anyway, everyone's in a tizzy over Act 10. "What's that?" asked Judy. "It's a new law requiring all state employees to turn in a list of all organizations they belong to. It has to be notarized and everything." So, said David, "the governor and his friends are going to use those lists to fire anyone they suspect of being an integrationist." "But I thought people were allowed to associate with anybody they wanted, long as the group wasn't doing anything illegal," I said. "Exactly," said David. "A couple of the professors are refusing to submit a list. I'll have to ask Miss Winthrop about it," I said. "See what the WEC is planning to do about it." "Can we talk about something else?" said Judy. "I'm only home for a little while." So we did. We joked and poked at each other and talked about nothing in particular. It was wonderful. When it was time to go, David pulled me aside and said, "Keep up the good work." "Will do," I said. Judy was quiet on the bus ride home. "I'm sorry we made you feel left out," I said. "What?" "I mean, when David and I were talking about the schools being closed, I know you're suffering the most, being sent away from home and living with Granny, and I tried to think of something positive, but at least you have Robert. I bet you spend a lot of time with him." Judy picked at a thread on her skirt. "He broke up with me." I'm sorry, I said. When? Last week. He asked me to give back his jacket and everything. Oh, Judy, that's awful. She started to sniffle, and I patted her back like she was a lost puppy. He wanted to give it to Lou Ann. Silent tears started rolling down her cheeks like the rain on the windows of the bus. Is this a good time to tell you I always thought he was kind of goofy looking? Judy snorted, and he smiled like a raccoon, I added. Judy hiccuped as she tried not to laugh. See, Marley, she managed finally. You always know what to say to make me feel better. You're the older one. I thought that was your job, I said. Shut up, she said. Sometimes it's good to have a sister.